Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It is 3/11/2025 and I wanted to make a video entry about people who resent other people. And that's typically going to be the dynamic of a person who, for whatever reason, might be having to be in contact with you. Like for an example, a coworker, family member through marriage, family member through blood. And whatever the case, when someone resents you, they can employ a number of tactics. And one of those tactics is called ghosting. If someone truly resents you, they'll ghost you. They'll give you what's called the silent treatment. In different eras, it's called different things, but whenever people give one another the opportunity to communicate, and for whatever reason, someone of those groups will choose not to communicate, generally it's because they resent you. And sometimes the reason I mentioned all those dynamics is because it can be quite complicated, especially when you're working with family members who are family members because of marriage or whatever. And the way that I mean that is maybe you have one family member who truly cares about you, and then you have another family member who doesn't really care about you. And out of the two, one of them really doesn't want to ever talk to you, and they don't really feel comfortable around you. And most of the time, if you're on the receiving end of a narcissistic attack, most of the time you can tell that because this would be a person who you would normally talk to and say, and tell them when you're feeling uncomfortable, and that other person will simply refuse to acknowledge it. Or they'll do something like gaslight you. You'll be gaslit like you would not believe, and the things that will be said back to you will be something along the lines of, well, so-and-so, I'm sorry you feel that way. And just so you know, when someone tells you, I'm sorry you feel that way, that is definitely not an apology. So if you have someone in your group who's doing that to you, that's called gaslighting. And those type of manipulative tactics are something that, again, a narcissist or someone who doesn't have empathy will employ. And there are a lot of different words. So if you're hearing narcissist and you've done this to someone else, don't get offended. Just basically take it at face value and understand that if you yourself are ghosting someone, that is definitely a sign that you're resentful. I one time had a direct relative tell me that they thought that I was filled with resent. And if you look through the postings that I have even here on a regular basis, you'll see that I do everything I can to try and continue to work towards my regaining my health. And part of that was in disconnecting my association with toxic persons in my circles. So recently I was in Big Bend National Park, and I was contacted by someone who happened to be there at the same time. And they employed a different tactic, and that tactic is to try and one-up you. And this person said to me, hey, I'm over here in Big Bend National Park. And it was interesting because I happened to be there at the same exact time. So it's a small world after all. And when I said that and gave this person opportunities to get together and asked them questions, they wouldn't answer any of the questions. They definitely didn't make any effort to get together. And then they suggested that they were going to be leaving that place and maybe we should get together at some other point in time. And they had already suggested this to me in the past. And so I said, hey, maybe we were supposed to get together in this super remote place because we were both here at the same time, at the same place. And things like that, little synchronicities like that happen to be kind of like signs from the universe. If you're listening for signs from the universe and you have two resentful people who are on a team, like a married couple, or even just one resentful person on a team, like a married couple, who are in conflict with you because you happen to tell them the truth, then basically you might find that the person who is so egocentric and self-centered that they don't want to talk with you will be able to convince the other person who is a little bit weaker-willed to carry out the same tactic towards you. And so if you find that you've been ghosted by people who you formerly found were close with you, you might not understand that they're in a dynamic with an abusive partner. And the most you can do is basically try to call those conversations to order. You know, in order to do that, you will have to have everyone present. It's almost like an intervention. You'll have to have everyone present. You'll have to have people who are neutral in that location. And so you might want to suggest that if you're ever to be involved in their conversations again, that you might need to consider going to counseling, going to family counseling if it happens to be family members. But besides doing that, you might also want to just disconnect your conversations or your expectation of conversations from these entities. And that doesn't mean to ghost them in return. That just means to set your boundaries. A lot of times when you set boundaries with people who truly resent you, they will definitely not acknowledge anything that you say, and they'll also often misspeak, about the things that you formerly used to do. And by misspeak, I mean it could be by mistake or it could be on purpose. But the fact is they will not tell the truth. So if you're in a relationship where people are just not telling the truth and you find out either directly or through the grapevine that these resentful people are saying hurtful things and or keeping your loved ones from you, again, that's just the dynamic of the way things go. So patience is definitely something that you should focus on. And by patience, what I mean is just don't rush it, Let things go the way that they're going to go. If the other person truly cares about you, they're going to involve themselves in your life. If they don't care about you, they're just going to continue to ghost you. And that's basically the same as giving you the silent treatment. So for anyone out there who's receiving the silent treatment, click on the thumbs up if you understand how this feels, because you've also been gaslit. If you've been in an abusive relationship, do consider sharing this type of topic. I'll try to link to a direct example of some of the circumstances that I myself have gone through. But for the most part, I just wanted to say that I'm going to try to do a series of these types of symptoms, if you'll call it that, signs that you're being addressed by someone who resents you. And if you choose to, you can certainly share this video with anyone else who you think it might benefit. So that's really about it. I hope that you're having a great day. I hope that you're enjoying the transition from winter to springtime. Here in Texas, it's pretty hot already. It's going to get to about 90 degrees by the end of this week. And so the plants just came through a recent freeze, and, everything has been quite challenging for our ecosystems. For anyone who doesn't recognize that, that's something else I talk a lot about on this channel. The ecosystems, wildlife, and nature happen to be one of my primary concerns, and everything else, even including relationships with people, happens to fall way back on the back burner, because I believe that as time goes by, we're going to have increasing difficulties even having basic relationships with one another in these challenging times. You can look at the situations in all of the nations as far as whether or not we are at peace. Chances are we're not even at peace in our own families. Whether we are able to talk with one another on a national scope, we can barely do that on a familial level. And as far as any friends out there who happen to be hearing this and thinking that this pertains to them, don't forget that you could always choose to have a conversation and not ghost one another. So until next time, peace, love, and all that old school stuff. Thank you so much for continuing to subscribe. and to share this channel. I've had a lot of success when it comes to making connections on this platform. And I've also found that many of us are damaged goods. And so it's going to take a lot of patience and a lot of conversation to get to the root of what it is that we are truly hurt about in order to have a conversation that doesn't seem like it's forced. So again, if you're being ghosted, don't rush it, because that's all that's going to do is cause the resentful person to panic and be a little bit more distant and guarded. And having a guarded conversation with someone who cares about you is an unusual circumstance. Like, I care about these individuals that I'm talking with. I won't say about, because I know that they're watching these presentations. Most people who are self-absorbed will either distance themselves or immerse themselves. But whatever the case, when you have partnerships like the partnership that I'm referencing here, there is definitely someone always listening, whether it's their own family members or themselves. And so for that reason, that's why I'm posting this stuff here. Some people might say, "Oh, well, you're doing this in public, and it's your family laundry is in public, and that's not right." Well, the thing is that I've been left with very little options. My father burned down my grandparents' house, and then his family essentially stole the property from him by divvying out portions of payments to themselves so that my older former mayor of a small town cousin could take over that property. And basically, that's what happened. My grandparents had specific wishes for what was supposed to happen to that house. My dad did some interesting things, which I forgive him for, and I've never really held him accountable for it. But that's the problem. Nobody's really held anyone, especially people like that, accountable for the things they do. Otherwise, why would we have the leader that we have right now, who simply grabs people by the, let's call it by the, what he shouldn't have said. So with all of that in mind, what we vote for, what we are represented by, is clear. And clearly, the lack of conversation and empathy is something that is failing all of us, whether it's on a humanity type level or on a level of national concern or family concern even. It's an overall failure. And so I might sound like I'm stammering around looking for the words that I'm trying to say here, but I'm basically just trying to suggest that many of us are going through this, and I feel for you. And I hope that other people who happen to have any concern for the things that I myself am going through will put in a good word when they send out those positive wishes. That's basically what I'm doing for the universe and all the people here within. And at the same time, I'm receiving back a lot of interesting commentary on things where I'm allowing commentary. And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of people just want you to be quiet about things that are wrong in the world. So I'm going to go in the opposite direction and continue to present the knowledge that I can in the effort to improve communication among all of us. Until next time, peace, love, and all that old school stuff.